We are going to talk to you today about your methylation report or your 23andMe report. And when we say methylation, it's how well your cells make energy. Over 250 cellular activities in the body require methylation. So things like regenerating DNA, also detoxifying, getting rid of xenobiotics, so medications that we take. Also getting rid of free radicals. So free radicals are byproducts of stress. If we have chemical exposures or even medication exposures or pathogens or viruses or parasites. So if we methylate properly, then we have the ability to turn cells off from expressing themselves. So what does that mean? If you have a genetic inheritance, like mom had a thyroid problem, grandma had a thyroid problem, or mom had gastrointestinal problems, or mom had some depression, or even sometimes things run in the family like mood disorders, anxieties, and irritabilities, and manias, and all of the things that seem to be family derived. Those are predispositions in your body that got expressed, meaning it didn't fall out of the sky and hit you on the head, but something happened over time that didn't allow your body to turn it off. And methylation is that thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to explain all that to you with this handout that you have so that you can read over that. But I'm just going, and I'm recording this part because this part is the same for everyone. But when we get to the specifics as what's going on with you, I'll stop recording. So when we say we're methylating, basically from a chemistry point of view, methylation means you're adding a CH3 onto the foods that you eat. So if you eat protein, or you eat carbohydrates, or you eat fats, they all have a formula like CH6, O2O. I can't kind of remember. C6H12O6. So there's 6 carbons. There's oxygens and hydrogens on there. And so when we digest those, we break them down into small components. And then enzymes are responsible for adding a methyl group onto it. And when it adds a methyl group onto it, it changes the function. It allows us to use it for energy, like of all those things we just talked about. Even like nerve tissue, regenerating nerve tissue, so we don't have neuropathies. Brain tissue, so we can focus and concentrate. People with autoimmunities and thyroid problems have a lot of hair loss. So regenerating DNA so their hair growth can happen. So this has wide impacts. Neurotransmitters effectively, like meaning how well are you breaking down and making dopamine and serotonin so that you can clear it from the body. If you do that and you make it and break it down effectively, you're going to be normalized. But if you don't and it stays around too long, then you can have depression and increased pain and inability to sleep and anxiety and all the things that we don't like because we're not methylating properly. So genes help us methylate properly. Does that make sense? All right, so when we talk about methylation, we're looking at different pathways. So we're looking at what's called the methylation folic pathway, so folic acid into folate. That's very important. Folate is basically the same thing as folic acid, but it has a methyl group on it. So it had to work through all of these enzymes here in order to become fully methylated. So if you have weak links in these enzymes, and that's what this genetic report tells us, it tells us how well do these enzymes work? Are they working at 100% efficiency, or are they altered in their efficiency? And when they're altered in their efficiency, there's 2 types of alterations that can take place. One is called a heterozygous, means that we inherited one defective gene. We don't know if it's from mom or for dad, unless that gene is an X-linked gene. There are some enzymes that are X-linked, which means it'd be your mother's side. But the other option is we would have both genes that are altered. So this is called heterozygous, meaning it's altered in a certain amount of efficiency. This is homozygous. It's altered in a lot of efficiency problems. So the way I explain it is, think of this as an 8-lane highway. And this is we live in Florida, so this is Fort Lauderdale, and this is the Keys. And we want all these enzymes to be working effectively. We want them to be 8-lane highways. But if we're heterozygous on one of these genes, it's a 4-lane highway. It doesn't clear traffic effectively. If it's a homozygous and it's 2 altered genes, it's 2 lanes. So imagine me getting to the keys on a 2-lane highway. It's not going to happen as effectively. So I'm not going to get to the party. I'm not going to have as much energy as you are if you have an 8-lane highway. But the other things we need to worry about too is not just how wide the highway it is. We also need to know about cofactors. So cofactors are things that allow the enzymes to work properly. And so a cofactor is like a toll, and you having a transponder and being able to go through the toll. If you don't have a transponder, and I do, and my lane's 2 lanes and yours is 8 lanes, I'm going to beat you because I have the transponder. Those are cofactors. So cofactors are healthy nutrition. Things like magnesium and potassium and B1 and B2, and those are all in healthy foods that we eat. The last thing we also want to know about are inhibitors or promoters. So when I talk about an inhibitor, I'm talking about a 2-lane highway because we have homozygous gene. We inherited both weak links. We have no cofactors, so we don't have any transponders to go through the toll. And then there's a tractor-trailer spilled in the middle of the highway. That's what we call inhibitors. Inhibitors would be things like methotrexate, medications, infections, heavy metal toxicities, nitric oxide gas, a lot of different things that we know that will impact the gene. We also have things that will promote it too. So something that will make it work too quickly. So really the goal is 4-fold. How much is the gene altered? That's what the report tells us. How much is their tolls, meaning cofactors? We don't know that from here, but we know that from you and your diet, and we can do organic acid testing and other testing. I don't do it a lot because I feel it's a lot of money to spend on cofactors when we can just give you the cofactors. And then we need to know about inhibitors, things that are spilled in the middle of the road that aren't allowing that gene to work effectively. And then lastly, we need to know that of the gene above and the gene below, because I can never make a 2-lane highway an 8-lane highway or a 4-lane highway. It's always going to be genetically altered. But we can give you more enzyme or more cofactors, something that will promote it, give you the end product, so I already take you down to the keys and just beam you down there and not even worry about going through the other places. But we also have to know if we're going to clear that traffic on one roadblock and one area that has no tolls and one area that has a tractor trailer spilled in the middle, then when you get to another roadblock, you can have a whole set of other symptoms. So sometimes it's not prudent to just give someone methylfolate or other nutrients, because what happens is they clear one roadblock and then they get to another roadblock that they didn't even know about, and now they have all these other symptoms: anxiety, heart palpitations, irritability, mood disorders, sad, anxious, mad, all of these things. So it's really, really important to not just give you the pill and take it, but it's to understand all of this stuff. By the time I actually get to doing a report like this, it's usually 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks down the road, right? Because it takes so long. That's a good thing, because I get people that will call me up and say, hey, I got this SNP or genetic mutation or altered gene. I take this pill, that pill, and the other pill, and I don't feel good. Why not? And they know the information just as much as me. They know their stuff inside out. The reason why that is because we didn't impact all the roadblocks that all have highway tractor trailer spilled over. He didn't or she didn't address that. They just went straight to the 2-lane highway and said, let's get through that and let's give you a toll. But they didn't clear up the damage. And the damage would be bacterial overgrowth in the gut, food reactivities to the foods that they're eating every day, too much carbohydrates and insulin spikes, steroids, prednisone, heavy metal toxicities. Until you fix those roadblocks or those highways that have tractor trailers spilled in the middle of it, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's why you need to work with someone in the capacity of having impact all of those other things too. So now let's get into your specific weak links, and I'll stop the video there. So